Good viewer, you are watching Xirtus. This is because Xirtus makes you feel good, makes you feel fulfilled. You are enjoying this. You will continue to watch Xirtus for a long time to come. You want to subscribe to Xirtus, and you will. You will like and subscribe and share. You will tell your friends. Tell your friends about Xirtus. Your friends will come to like Xirtus, much as you are liking this right now, as we speak. Thank you for subscribing to Xirtus. See, that was easy.
I spin fellas, my swing quicker than Federer. I serve packing the bands bag on the regular. And I'ma tell her how she sing for me T-Pain. Your mama's hooked on the packs, I'll be selling her. I click M's and bang 'em and I'm a nothing. I feel his head with the lead like a mukbang. The magazine made me lean when I walk in the drumstick will make a head bang like a punk band. Hop in the cab, I'm banging me crossword up. Head in the west and I'm banging a posh bird. Couple of cans and a puff on me death stick. Click on me fingers, he's cutting me cough dead. Ringing the bow bells, bringing the website. I'm flinging the dry food, bringing the cassette. Belling me non-stop, sending the lads there. Hopping me drop top, I'm running the man down. Mr. Big Bucks, I'll be looking at business. Stressed to kill, mama got me up on the hit list. Pole position, had a fella running the distance. I'll be banging, giving the triplets. The bigger the bag, the bigger the butt crack. The bigger the chance, the birds up in my contacts. The figure's a big deal, a pen on the contract. Serve me up, baby, give a tip on me top end. And I'll be whipping a wire, puffing a Benson. Pushing a pack, the full stack like a benching. Giving the fish scale, that slide like a penguin. Flipping the chick on my bills, why fuck a pension. Slow-mo vision, I've been puffing the peace pipes. Selling free fires to the fiends by the seaside. I'm a tail lines in the seams of my Levi's. With a stack figure, the Nicki Minaj we. And I'ma tell her how she sing for me T-Pain. Your mama's hooked on the packs, I'll be selling her. I click M's and bang 'em and I'm a nothing. I feel his head with the lead like a mukbang. The magazine made me lean when I walk in the drumstick will make a head bang like a punk band. Hop in the cab, I'm banging me crossword up. Head in the west and I'm banging a posh bird. Couple of cans and a puff on me death stick. Click on me fingers, he's cutting me cough dead. Ringing the bow bells, bringing the website. I'm flinging the dry food, bringing the cassette. Belling me non-stop, sending the lads there. Hopping me drop top, I'm running the man down. Mr. Big Bucks, I'll be looking at business. Stressed to kill, mama got me up on the hit list. Pole position, had a fella running the distance. I'll be banging, giving the triplets. The bigger the bag, the bigger the butt crack. The bigger the chance, the birds up in my contacts. The figure's a big deal, a pen on the contract. Serve me up, baby, give a tip on me top end. And I'll be whipping a wire, puffing a Benson. Pushing a pack, the full stack like a benching. Giving the fish scale, that slide like a penguin. Flipping the chick on my bills, why fuck a pension. Slow-mo vision, I've been puffing the peace pipes. Selling free fires to the fiends by the seaside. I'm a tail lines in the seams of my Levi's. With a stack figure, the Nicki Minaj we.
Oh yeah, what's up? How you doing, Raph? Welcome to NEUROPA, everybody.
Good morning, America. This is NEUROPA.
I mean, it's almost morning, right? That's good. No, it's good time in America. What time is it in America? I haven't even thought about that, really. Do you know? Here, I'll look it up.
In America, it is 7. It's 7:30 in the morning in San Francisco. About 9:30 in Baton Rouge. 10:30 in New York.
Yeah, we'll use New York time. I feel like America's New York. Like California, we're decidedly California. You know, we're just a little behind New York, but almost catching up with yesterday in the future because of Asia. Yeah, well, we're just PRC friendly or compliant. Like all of our I noticed that here because you have weird tariff laws. This is something that's been freaking me out. I think I told you about my projector. Did I tell you about my whole thing with that? My laser projector? Oh, okay. I have a quick drama for you then. So I have a laser projector that's like this size, right? And it's really cool, and I like it a lot, and it was super cheap, and I got it from like Black Friday through Walmart, of all places, in the middle of America. I forgot it, so I have to send it to myself in the mail because trying to buy it again in Germany is impossible. It blows my mind. Like, there are laws in Germany that make it impossible for me to buy this thing, and it makes sense. It makes sense because Germany's trying to stop China from competing with Germany's technology front. So they're saying, hey, we want to make most of the stuff in Germany. But the problem is Germany's not making that stuff. And so Germany's made these laws, and I've been watching this like a boxing match. Like the history of Germany for the last 10 or 15, 20 years is a bad boxing match. And then Germany gets rid of nuclear, punched in the face. And then Germany makes an oversight commission against AI, bang, punched in the gut. And just constantly just watching Germany get hit over and over again. But Germany said to itself, we're going to focus on, you know...
well, I'm incredibly sorry. If you were to imagine France and Algeria, do you think France would be incredibly interested to have Algeria producing the most fanciest cars in AI applications? I doubt it.
I mean, it depends on, I don't know, because like France, that's the thing. Is France more about Europe or is France more about French culture? And I think on some levels, it depends on who you're asking. But France is probably more interested in French culture, and therefore Morocco, Algeria, parts of Africa, parts of the Polynesian islands, all of these things count to the French more than the rest of Europe, right? Which is kind of dissipating into a loss of French culture. Let's put it that way, right? The Western culture, the French maybe consider liberté, égalité, fraternité. That's a different kind of culture than what there's like at least two competing alternatives to that, right? There's this extreme didacticism from the Middle East, and then there's also sort of like this atheist traditionalism that comes from the Far East, right? I think both of those. But yeah, I said it earlier, basically, unless I said not even unless I said the West must essentially. The West must step up tech manufacturing, maker spaces, 3D printers to libraries, etc., or else the tariffs against China will end up isolating the West from the futurism available to the East. BRICS will be so far ahead in a decade, NATO will be throwing spears at their drones, right? I actually feel like that's a pretty close analogy. We might be headed towards some sort of Edo period, right? I look at the stuff available in Germany, and it's 15 years old. And so you have to imagine how, I mean, this is a real problem. This is a real problem. 15 years ago is a long time today. If your electric cars are not as good as China's electric cars and drones, etc., and America's AI, you're not going to be able to do what? Compete, right? And competition is what everything's about right now. Compute. That's even more true. Haha. Okay. Sorry about my little spiel there.
No, don't worry. We'll actually get back to drones a bit later, so that's good.
Fair enough.
That's a good intro.
Fair enough. Well, okay, so, I have one more. Can I do one more real quick? I'm sorry. So, did you hear the thing about Friends, Phoebe, lobsters? Have you heard this already? I didn't know this, but there's like a thing
but please, before you go on about this, please explain again why Peterson is into lobsters. Because I didn't watch him a lot, and I always only saw the memes, and I forgot again why.
I'm glad it's all. Well, that's the thing. So like, this is a computational compute issue in terms of syntax meaning. And when I think of lobsters, of course, I'm thinking of Jordan Peterson because I hadn't seen Friends. But Friends, I'm going to start with because Friends has this sort of, I didn't know this, a cultural thing about lobsters already that suggests that lobsters are the sort of the symbol of true love, right? Of true love. That this is what lobsters are. That's not what Jordan Peterson says. Jordan Peterson, who is not a sitcom writer, says that lobsters are serotonin-induced warriors, cannibals, etc. But when the winning lobster achieves victory in a fight, in a kill, a death battle, if you will, with these other lobsters, it pulls the arms off and eats them from this other lobster. Then it gets this serotonin boost from satisfaction, and it stretches out and it becomes bigger. So the more confident lobster is the bigger lobster, and the smaller lobster is the losing lobster becomes smaller, right? And this also affects the level of dominance, competence, and hierarchy. So this is the sort of rubric of the competent dominate. That's the way it's been for millions of years. That's the way it can continue to be. That's the way it might not always be if we look at how quickly we can change culture. Of course, that's kind of the point. It's so amazing how rapid evolution is now that literally we could completely destroy. It's amazing how quickly you can get rid of something that took millions of years or billions of generations or whatever that even means in terms of this, atheistic evolutionary ideology. But still, the idea that instinct, I like it. This is almost Nietzschean, that instinct is the product of the personhood from the father or the mother to the child, generation after generation. And if you lose instinct, then if you don't train the next generation to hold on to instinct, then you completely lose everything that you are and who you've become. And if you don't have anything else, you'll just probably just destroy yourself. But you can also supply it with something else, which is something that they're trying to do right now. They're trying to supply new meaning for the being. So it's interesting because there's this idea that,
isn't that like the Yuval Noah Harari question, like what to do with all these useless eaters? It's like, isn't that also like the sense of, finding new purpose? I mean, I'm not sure if Yuval Noah Harari really is interested in finding new purpose, but at least he's talking about it.
I'm trying to remember that quote. I should have been a more ragged set of scuttling of claws scuttling across the ocean floor. I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas. Right? J. Alfred Prufrock, I think. Okay. But there's this is the quote from Phoebe. Phoebe's the girl from this sitcom we're talking about, Friends.
I know about her
picture, but it's a known fact that lobsters fall in love and mate for life. You know what? You can actually see all old lobster couples walking around their tanks, holding hands. Right? Like, this is a crazy interesting thing because this is like the Lemmings story. The story of lemmings. Disney made a show where lemmings jumped off of cliffs called White Winters. White Wilderness.
Yeah, but which is like I think also like a forged up event or something. There's something not
extremely
exactly
forged. So they pushed the lemmings.
But
off
it was good enough to be made into a game later, So.
Well, I mean, I had teachers that I had to explain this to all my life and make them look it up, and they didn't believe me because Disney showed them as children lemmings jumping off cliffs. But the lemmings don't do that unless people chase them off cliffs.
What else did Disney show them as children, which they never questioned?
It's the test.
Actually,
the test to see how much
I want to point that out briefly because it's, I don't know, I'm not sure if I should say sad, but maybe boring is the better term. Sometimes, for some reason, I'm watching the new Dragon Ball releases. I never really watched Dragon Ball back then or Dragon Ball Z, also because they're famous for having like still images for half an hour. And I mean, I'm not that ADD, but there's limits. Anyways, but what dawned on me again is that even though it's actually a story about this Eastern monkey god idea, gamified and animified and all of that, but still in almost, especially the newer series, but I guess also the older ones, there's a lot of spaceships, there's a lot of different planets, there's a lot of like, let's just say NASA cosmology being presented actually, which is fine, yeah. But given all the tropes available, it's a little bit curious to me why that's such an integral part. But anyways, is there anything else you wanted to say about the lobster?
I'm sorry. That was basically it. I just think it's an interesting trope about evolution, and that's just kind of a weird synchronicity, at least, and that there's that they've created a neurolinguistic programming that people actually believe this. There are enough people out there who, I mean, if you live in the main, this is my point. If you live in the mainstream reality, you don't know Jordan Peterson. You know Friends, right? And so for the average lemming human, that belief is this is the complete different reality, in every respect. I mean, this is crazy. And this is not just, I mean, these are insects. They're telling you that insects have the same patterns as whom? What do actually do this? What they're talking about, of course, was the monogamy thing, which might seem like kind of romantic to you, but what species actually are monogamous? Penguins, right? You could think of, I think is the first one that comes to mind. Birds and lizards, reptiles, because birds are reptiles. So they're telling you that the cultural normative of this insect that follows the hive mind is reptilian social values. I find that interesting. They're trying to pattern and imprint reptilian social values through Friends.
I mean, there is a whole question, while it appears as if certain ideas of liberality in relation to sexual relations in the West potentially have gone too far, whatever that means exactly. People can judge for themselves. However, there is the open question whether or not, let's say, humans generically, or what conditions humans require in order to be monogamous. I think that's still an open question whether most individuals would be wired like that, let's say for eternal life, for their whole life, or whether it would
hopefully
be
both, yeah,
normal to have, I don't know, 2 or 3 partners, or what are the real examples. And we hardly have any, because we have a few native, we have a few native
Elohim
tribes
social
potentially.
Values.
But most everyone else already got indoctrinated into some sort of religion or whatever else, where it does beg the question, is the system that's being set up really the most appropriate? And at the very least in the West, we know, of course, it almost seems there is more divorces than marriages going on.
Well, I think this is the thing, and we see maybe is that the seahorses are monogamous. Yeah, seahorses are based. It's true. And also seahorse daddies are like the coolest daddies. You think about it. You know what I mean? Good point. But yeah, I think it's interesting, that push. I just wanted to make that thought about Friends. I wonder why Friends decided to choose to do that, because obviously whoever wrote that is probably a liberal arts student. Like, he probably had, whoever wrote that's probably like took a class on marine biology before, and knows that that's not true about lobsters, and so they were making the point. So yeah, dude, seahorses are based. Okay, so by the way, everybody, this is NEUROPA, November 27th, 16 minutes in, talking about seahorses and lobsters. But we're going to read the AI summary of the episode. Do you want me to do it, or do you want to do it? You could do it. I've been talking a lot.
So yeah, I decided to shorten it here, but also, so it's moderately interesting, let's say. But the good thing is that I was watching some random video through a different browser profile or something, and suddenly an automatic AI summary popped up on some sort of random video.
Totally.
It's not on my videos yet, I guess, but it seems they're starting. So I'm kind of like, oh great, so I don't need to do it myself. They can just throw it in.
I'm seeing some. Well, it's cool to do because it's self-reflective.
Of course, no, it's interesting, but you have to then find the right prompt that the AI also actually makes something interesting and doesn't make it too generic or too the same thing, whatever. AI prompt magic, right?
Well,
AI black
magic.
Are
you going to read it? Because it's kind of.
All right, yeah, I'm going to read it. So yeah, we delve into unsettling conspiracy theories and historical. And
you have to see it on the screen, don't you? I didn't know. I was trying to. I just wanted to see your mustache. No, you go ahead.
We delve into unsettling conspiracy theories and historical controversies surrounding topics like, once again, Operation Gladio and its alleged involvement in high-profile events. I think alleged is what the AI put there. Explore the intersections between science, sexuality, identity, and environmental factors as we examine research on causes of homosexuality. That's
really, that's part of this? Okay.
That was brought up to me, and I was like, finally, we should look at a few things. And I even found a few interesting things. So, not to mention the frogs, right? Examine concerns around emerging technologies such as AI-driven swarms, subscription model proliferation, and again, that's what the AI put there, building collapses that defy logic. It's just a short video about a controlled demolition. It's not what you are not thinking about right now, so don't worry. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So that sounds pretty good. And eclectic mix explores urgent geopolitical shifts and historical.
So this is the last one, but please open it up and go to the last section of this, the first link, because we kind of missed that last time.
Sure.
Just to make sure that people are aware. Very
history,
very bottom to the extraterrestrial. So I just wanted to point out here. No, a bit more up. So here I wanted to show Contact from Space. So Sex, Lies, and Book Burning and Contact from Space by Wilhelm
great.
Reich.
I'm glad. I was going to bring up Reich anyway. So good. Cool.
Great. So this was actually sent to me by Brittany. Shout out. Thank you. I
Nice.
watched the video about the
This was
book
also
burning.
sent to me by Brittany. Franklin and the Marshall College sexualizing book burning. Here's the Internet Archive. There we go. It finally loaded. Cool. Go ahead. Continue. Sorry.
So I still have to look properly at the book, actually, but I listened to the video. I wasn't that aware that his books got burned. Maybe I had learned it at some point.
It's a huge deal, actually. It's a crazy thing. There's no other circumstance that I can think of. Like banned in Boston books, even when they were burning people at the stake, they weren't burning people's research the way they were burning Reichs. But the other cool thing that from this guy that Brittany's pointed out, James Strick, he's found, and I think through him, another basically all of Reich's works that have been burned. There's a copy of that's been found, and so at this point today, we can get basically since 2016 or so all of his works. You can get them back again. So it's a really huge. This is not only a critical thing. This is a huge shift in the way, in the way to look at the world, that this information is now available. And it's only been available again for maybe a decade. So it's critical stuff.
And also what I'd like to point out, because there have been quite a few, let's say, spin-offs, and I want to say cults, I guess, from the 50s, 60s, 70s, even in Austria, quite famous, infamous places which may have had strange practices, which I think quite often reference or tie themselves back also to Reich, or the whole, orgone idea and all of that. Of course, then often also related to sexuality. But I have to say, especially if there's anything, which I do assume, to Reich's work, then it may well be that even afterwards, quote unquote, the system deliberately allowed certain very strange cults to get a bad rap, let's say, and associate themselves with these ideas, just so people don't, look closer. Because of course you can have, just like with Osho or whatever, people going crazy, screaming around or whatever, right? And that may even be a part of the thing, but probably just a small part, and not then be in this overdriven way how it was later presented, maybe only to further deter people from really understanding what is this about? Is there maybe a life force, energy, stuff like that, something to care about, right?
Well, even more so pressing at the time, right? So what is Reich telling people to do? It's like, get in an orgone chamber. What's it for? It's basically a Faraday cage. It's keeping the radiation and the rays that we're used to away from you. Okay? So what is a big part of his, his research? It's that radio is affecting everything, your sex life, your life in general, and life on the planet and the world, in weather, in all of it. It's just everything is being affected by radio. What's something that people are freaking out about now today? Well, cellular, energy, HARP, frequency, any of that stuff. If this information was made available at the time when the government were burning, let's again remember, burning his research.
Yeah, they couldn't have even started the whole telecom thing. Yeah. No AT&T for you. Or at least they would be using different frequency spectrum, yeah.
It would have dented and perverted the zeitgeist of the layman, because the way Freud has been affecting, Freud was huge, right? And this is a student of Freud's. So for Freud to be not just popular, but popularized by the PR Bernays firm, it would mean that Reich would have been just the next thing. It would have been so clear that American media and everything would have started to bounce around these ideas that we are bioelectrical radio frequency beings, which is exactly where everything's going now anyway. So it's just another part of the suppression, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, okay. So anything else you wanted to say about the organon?
There's so much. It's also relating, in my mind, always to the whole sky acupuncture. Was it originally Reich now? Or there was, or Steiner? Somehow Steiner always comes to my mind in this relationship as well. No, but it was Reich also with the orgone, of course, and with the sky acupuncture, which then of course relates to Majid Abdelaziz's weather making machine, the podcast we did, and many derivative ideas and technologies in use today or developed today. And yeah, I'm curious to check this out, especially what he's gonna say about, I don't know, UFOs or whatever is going on here, and maybe also share it with some friends to make sure they're up to speed in terms of this quote unquote original content from our perspective. Yeah, that's it for that. I think we can go on maybe. And anyhow, everyone in any case, kindly check out the links if you're interested in the whole Earth shape and extraterrestrial topic stuff. Check out the links that I put there. There's always something going on, and this whole final experiment thing is still going on, and there's still things happening. I don't even want to comment on it too much, but guys can kindly go watch the videos if you want to be on top of it, which again is potentially worth it, because once again, Candace Owens' editor, Alex Stein himself is not going now, but someone was asked. Supposedly they say William Shatner is going. They say Neil deGrasse Tyson may be going. And also it's very strange because by now it's become obvious that for some strange reasons, the individuals with this final experiment organizing it, they definitely only wanted to go this year. And it's all about observing the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, or at some ice sheet, which is called Antarctica. And then they want to determine, or they claim, the originators of the experiment, they can determine the shape of the ground by observing whether or not there's a 24-hour sun, because it would falsify a particular model. I brought this up before. But yeah, it's strange because apparently individuals already had the idea of going last year, but it was not desired to go last year. So maybe even this year there is some sort of a special phenomenon there, or maybe there is some particular, I wanted to say ideology also that, but agenda planned for next year, whereas it's relevant that in winter this year, there will be this big experiment and potentially, God knows, some new Netflix documentaries or whatever, PR disinformation that will most likely be attempted to be spun from this. And again, no one discussing why we have the Antarctic Treaty, why we see the Fitbit data from there, you know, all the other things completely being disregarded. Based. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, we can go to the new links if you like.
All right. Let's see here. We'll go down to history. Do some of this right now. So this is a PDF file that you found.
Yeah, so this is just funny. This is just locally from Austria, and I guess everyone can look this up. I'm even considering buying this. This is simply from the school. I'm wondering which word to use. It's not the Ministry of Education. This is the Österreichische Buchverband, which is the Austrian Book Association, which generally has the complete wholesale license to deliver books to all schools. They are like the one go-to place for any teacher, any student. You want to buy any book you need to use in school, you get it from there. And anyways, of course, beginning of the year, you get all your books from there. So of course, this is highly curated, I would say. All I can remember is we spent like half a year learning about ancient Egypt, you know. No one talked to me about David Ewing Jr. back then. Surprise. But anyways, and also because we spoke about this several times about how much history changes. I mean, you even said this, you know, when I'm in high school, you're in kindergarten already, we may be learning a different history. And David also brought this up recently, where he mentioned, because some individuals were criticizing Fomenko's work, this and that. And one of the things David mentioned simply is that even today, every few years, history is being changed and rewritten actively, right? So it may actually be fun or make sense for everyone to check out a current day high school history textbook and then verify whether the tropes and the ideas and the dates they are learning are actually still consistent with whatever they themselves had learned 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And it may well be that it's a lot different. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think most people's education would be the same in 20. I don't think so at all. I don't think almost anything would. Man, I'm trying to wonder, because it's not just that they've started being more honest with things. It's also the dismantling of data with like this 1619 project and all that, right? So there's a number of different ways that they look at information. Oh man, isn't it right? 1619 project, you know, is it 1519? Yeah, 1619 project. It's this idea to replace, okay, instead of saying Columbus discovered America, yeah, it's a critical revisionist historiographical work, taking a critical revisionist critical view of traditional revered figures. Basically, it's saying that we were slaves. I mean, right? It's the antithesis of the way education was taught to us as Eurocentric education. So now they're trying to remove, critical race theory history. That's the easiest way to say it.
I was like, what? Where's my LCD history? I was like, CRT. Thank you for the translation. Yes.
Yeah. So 1619 project was launched in 2019 to commemorate the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved Americans to the British colony of Virginia. And so it basically presupposes that America is the history of oppression, exploitation, and more than just the gentle uplifting of the Europeans outside of their own hemisphere, right? So this changes everything about the way you look at America, because if you're looking at America like, oh, well, when did the first European come to America? Then you have a different argument. You're arguing about, did Christopher Columbus come first, or was it Leif Erikson and the Vikings? Did they arrive first, or are we talking about Indo-Aryan Persians and Icelandic Rus? Or how far back do you want to go until you look at the north and you realize that it's, you know, the same people, and then there's 5 or 6 other migrations of people 10,000, 20,000 years ago? Do you count them because they're arriving at a place that there are already people at? So this becomes a question about the destruction of the culture that was there first. At that point, you're saying this is no longer the beginning of the European American experiment. It's the end of the civilization at large of the Western Hemisphere. I think that is a fair thing to acknowledge. It is destroyed in the process. So maybe it's something that will, but that affects the way they teach education completely in America now.
Well, it's officially 17 years after the foundation of the Dutch East India Company, 1602, officially.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be something to it to some extent.
Yeah, I that's kind of something I would say, is that corporatism should be, I mean, you got to be careful using that word these days, but corporatism would really be the reason that European, you know, the empowerment of the European was directly through grosser mercantilism. Oh, whoa, NEUROPA. That was crazy right there.
Got it up.
Yeah, there we go. It just, without the money and the power being put into the hands of Europeans, they wouldn't have had the capacity to go all over the world, right, in these boats, which were originally boats that are based on boats from Eritrea and from, you know, the different places that don't even originate in Europe originally. So, and then they're following trade routes that have already been found by other people. So Europeans kind of found themselves in a position to use what had already existed as some sort of cosmopolitan triangular trade network. But that doesn't mean that they invented the great majority of those ideas. Clearly, Europeans are using, you know, Hellenism as a backbone for their ideology, their culture. Their culture is coming from like what they believe the Athenian Greeks did, which is then romanticized by this sort of Semitic belief, which, you know, the Christian influence on Europe, which doesn't come from Europe necessarily, not in the modern fashion. So yeah, it's a completely synthetic. Europe is completely synthetic.
Oh right? Yeah, I mean, there will be a new interview with David soon, where it may well appear as if even what people believe may have happened in America may have happened in some similar fashion, even in the UK, only maybe like 100 years ago, with all these orphan trains and so on. So many people that may believe themselves to be the original English, just like many, I mean, original Americans is a more diverse thing maybe, may actually not be as native English for hundreds of years as they imagine themselves to be. So I guess many people are going to be tripping over this sooner or later. What I wanted to bring up now, because you brought up Christopher Columbus, unfortunately, I can't find the proper image straight away, but I'm just going to post you the series in the private chat. This is from Dark Journalist, and he's always talking about this X-stenography. Again, unfortunately, even though I sent him an email, he didn't pick up on the Xirtus McMoon tapes and quite a few other things. And even here again, there seems to be a divide where, like, then for some reason people stick with particular lore and they don't want to look at flamenco and all of that. From what I can understand, it's similar here. But he's always mentioning that Christopher Columbus, when he, I'm not even sure what it is, wrote a letter or something, he also basically put this X, which you see there on the screen on a thumbnail, like as his signature. Like X is the Christopher Columbus signature. And this X-stenography is one of the ideas that Dark Journalist is following through these different mystery schools and all of that. So that's certainly also a part of the puzzle. That's as much as I can say. And it's also eerily close, of course, if you would add the I or the X or the I and the I, then you would have the Jesuit ring, right? Which is IXXI or 9/11/11/9.
I think a lot about the Steve Jobs cube, the next cube XT with the next operating system, which eventually was used. I mean, this was next was used to create Project Operation Looking Glass and
oh really?
The internet and at large, and HTML and HTTP, particularly hypertext. All of that was made possible. If you wanted to send a message to the past, what kind of message would you want to send? Well, you'd want to have a next cube that could send information back that you could print in low resolution but readable bitmaps, and you'd want to have the best Xerox printers that you could make, right? Which Xerox was spun off of IBM and Park Research Labs as well. So the cube, and then also X and Y. But before we get there, OS X.
None dare call it the black cube, right?
Mac OS X. Oh, come on, bro, show me the thing. When OS 10 came out, it's just they've never really gotten rid of it. They don't really talk about it as much
it's
anymore.
Actually so prevalent. I mean, now that Twitter is called X, as I already said, they should start paying you royalties. But it's really ever since.
Everyone should have to pay tribute. Kramabu. Yeah, I agree.
And didn't also Elon have X as like a domain for the longest time? Someone also wrote Elon is obsessed with X and Y, but there's definitely this like whole X thing. X marks the spot. I can't recount or summarize all the references, but there is a lot there.
There sure is. Well, let's give a shout out to our dear friends here. Juan and Dr. Longo did a Florida Underworld Sinkhole Epidemic, Gateway to Hell, and Disney Dark Secrets episode.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out they're doing interesting stuff. Here, I think I just tuned in for like 20 minutes or something, but it's always crazy. There's so many references and so many ideas, and sometimes it's great to just revisit those things and be like, oh my God, so many crazy architectural features. You have these sinkholes, you have the whole Disney connection, which we're actually going to bring up in a little bit again, because there's a few things. Yeah, right. I'm actually going to bring that up in a second, because we have this whole conspiracy theory that certain footage may have been created after the Second World War, whereas then it is said that Walt Disney would have played the Mustache Man. I'm sure you're familiar with this idea, right? I actually hadn't heard this before, but David had brought it up to me. And first I was like, well, they don't look too similar to me in a sense. But then especially if I look at their cousins or whatever it is, or Disney's cousin, maybe even you showed this to me, he really kind of does look like the propaganda minister. So I'm like, at least there's some kind of, I don't know what's going on there. And why I'm mentioning this now is because one of the later links, like the third link or whatever coming up now, is simply another one of those interviews from the Second World War, in this case with one of the waiters of Mustache Man. And I just think it's always incredibly interesting to listen to these people because, of course, they have a different view. They can kind of maybe more tell you how this individual is in day-to-day activities. And then also, of course, they can give their own perspective also as to why they believed in it. It makes it easy to understand why they were so fervent about it, or even that they had true admiration for the leader. But then also, of course, eventually in whatever ways it went sideways, or where they noticed something, you know, wasn't right, and all of that. But yeah, why I'm mentioning this now is simply because then if it's true that certain footage was later created with the help of Walt Disney, maybe potentially, God knows. I mean, America and Germany were well connected, even from the 30s or before that.
I mean, there was definitely a bunch of doubles. So,
exactly. So that's basically what I'm curious about, because it's so many people, even, second, third layer individuals I know, where there's someone who says, yeah, my whatever grandma or whoever actually met this individual. So it seems that like it's a real individual, but like you said, how many doubles? Who then is really on TV?
So many doubles that who's the original? Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people on the TV were not actually. So who and how real is this personhood of a leader? Well, it's like a fame. I mean, people conspire the same. People say this about Putin, that Putin's a new man. People say this about Biden, that Biden's not the same man. So that there's just a character
just to reiterate,
that's being created.
With both Biden and with Putin, I think it's pretty obvious if you look at it from 10 years ago. Either they got like the craziest complete facial reconstruction or whatever, or they just have to
so
be
the point is
individuals or something else.
And how old of a story is that? Well, it's like the oldest story, the Prince and the Pauper, or the leader.
But you're never supposed to believe it about the current leaders, or you're never supposed to believe it about leaders that are currently relevant in the political scene, to not have it, because then you could say, oh, it was just Putin's double talking, or it was just Trump's double, or whatever, even though everybody knows the evil dictator Kim Jong whatever certainly has doubles, but someone like Trump in the free Western world couldn't possibly have a double. Whoever wants to believe it, right?
I mean, eventually you'll have clones, so you'll have killing people. I mean, it's just in the meantime, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I don't know. I think you have to have synthetic identities for your politicians. At a certain point, you should just replace them with Disney characters, if not Walt Disney himself. Fair point. Enhance
makes sense because they are brands.
Toronto conference. Yeah, they're brands.
So this was recommended to me. I still have to watch this one. It also supposedly is about like quite a few hundred missing years or something like this. I may have heard about the guy before or not, but I haven't watched it yet. So this is one we'll have to come back to. But here, this looks good maybe. But no, this is just Wikipedia. So yeah, anyhow, he's also presenting a few hundred missing years or something. Something to look at for sure. But yeah, I'll check it out and I can give you a proper review about it.
Okay. And now we're back to Gladio.
Oh yeah, why did I bring this one up? Yeah, just more false flags. Maybe try like skipping through the middle or something, but I think they don't have many images.
Well, because I'm not a premium, they keep trying to make me watch these ads, so just warning you.
Oh, really? Okay, no, I think there's not really images here, but just basically...
Look at these socks. This is your fault, Raph. That's why we saw those socks. Right,
just basically a continual recommendation.
Where do I go?
No, there's nothing really to see here, I think. I just wanted to point out again, I'm still watching this series.
All right.
What's happening?
There's a great movie called Under Siege with Steven Seagal. Have you seen Under Siege? I'm just gonna say everyone should probably watch this movie. Just watch Under Siege. I mean, I think it's called like Alarm is Red or something like that in German. What's it called there? It's called, yeah. Alarmstufe Rot. Yeah, you should watch this movie, basically, because this is what's going on right now. Okay.
Red Alert, Combate Conquer. Yeah, Combate Conquer, Red Alert. Oh.
That's a solid movie right there. So Wilhelm Schneider.
Yeah, so this is the guy I mentioned earlier. He was the personal, or one of the personal waiters for Mustache Man.
No, really? Dude, this guy was serving him vegetarian meals? That's
Pretty
crazy.
much,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, this is hilarious. Yep, they made me dress up like a little Lego character and then bring him out little like pieces of pistachio sliced on top of spinach. I'm just trying to imagine, dude, because like the painter, the Austrian painter, the vegetarian painter.
And what's also kind of curious, of course, is that many of these interviews are about his estate in Obersalzberg, which was like his private estate. And
he
of
made
course
us make them sprouted nut milks so that he could drink his vegan milks. I don't know, sorry.
Maybe turn on the CC so you don't only put words in his mouth.
It's fun that way, though. In the garden of the Obersalzberg, there was a Mercedes immediately. He gave me her handkerchief, which happened to be clean. Take a long white jacket. The Obersalzberg.
This is just his story, basically, how through synchronicity he managed to actually land the job, because he already worked at hotels or something, and then at some point, randomly, he had actually a clean handkerchief or something. Somebody was impressed, and then he got recommended, and that's how he ended up serving him personally.
My gosh. Look at that. What is that? Is it like little fried potatoes? And then like, what is this bread? Is this bread or is this pastries? What am I even looking at, man? Is it tea time? What did the man eat? You know? I mean, like Osama bin Laden.
Oh, I have another conspiracy.
Counter-Strike.
Just before you go on. Yeah. Another conspiracy. Why?
It's relatable. Go
ahead. 5 o'clock tea. Is that just to supplant, at least for some regions at some point, or some cultures at some time, the 5 o'clock Muslim prayer? Or what's going on with the 5 o'clock tea? Why was that really invented? And because I could imagine that like colonials or whatever, we're just brainwashing the population. And now, for example, maybe if they used to pray or something, oh, don't worry, you're not going to go down the floor, whatever, but we're going to sit nice, prim and proper. You're going to drink your tea. I'm completely making this up right now, but I was just generally wondering, like, where does this thing come from and why is it at 5 o'clock? Like, what's going on here?
I can see a couple reasons there, but yeah, British people definitely have more ties to Islam than they'd like to admit through the anticipation of the Spanish Armada. There was definitely royals that were preparing and assigned to create an Islamic wave of culture. But, I think also just drinking stimulants at 5 p.m., I can see why British people are like, I can see how that happened. You're working all day 9 to 5, and then you drink tea at 5. Like, just to be fair. Muslim prayer hours, though, also changed.
I'm just pretty sure there's something more to this.
The Muslim prayer hour changes.
Yeah, right. It depends on where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah. That's for California, and then it's 555 here in Germany, and then in Japan it would be closer. I guess I don't know. Depends on different places. Okay, Under Siege, and then current stuff. Let's look at some current news. Current news is going on right here. So let's check out this Schauplatz. Ooh, what's this all about?
Yeah, so I honestly didn't watch this yet, but these are always nice because this is the Austrian cultural program where you have, random reporters going around and interviewing random individuals wherever they find them about whatever topic. And this actually relates also to the ongoing series we kind of both have with David, where it's a lot, of course, about the whole immigration issue and all of this. So the title of this episode is literally called "The Arabs Are Coming." Yeah. So it's about this recurring issue or question about the cultural compatibility or not, or how locals are reacting to it. And these are, as you can see here, usually nice to watch because you have I'm not sure how you would properly call it, the attempt to film real individuals. So here I would actually assume that most interviews you have are not done by crisis actors or staged, but of course still, however, they are, heavily edited and selected, of course. But yeah, and this is, of course, now for a few years, since 2015, a big thing also in Austria, where they started importing not only individuals from let's say, the former Ottoman Empire, but now going up to Syria and so forth. And even back then, when you had the guest workers coming from Turkey, there was already the question, well, apparently, obviously, the Austrians, if they would be complaining about cultural incompatibility or whatever, most oftentimes the ones they're getting is maybe some farmer from the mountains or whatever, but not the educated individual from Istanbul. So even here then, also in terms of how they exercise their religion or culture, is the question whether they are actually representative of the majority, or however else you would say it, of their home country, for example, Turkey, or maybe even in the case of Syria, where I don't know so much about it.
Well,
so yeah,
I mean, I think this is one of those things where it's a bummer what we define as the culture of a people. And I feel like you would agree.
Of course, which is retarded anyways, because
but like in 100 years, or in 15, who knows? Austria is going to be so filled with, as this article says, Arabers, right? That there's going to be a lot more question about what Arabic or Austrian culture means. And at the time, maybe 1,000 years ago in Persia, they were you can see exactly what's happening today happened in Persia. Hyper progressive, liberal. In ancient Persia, it was super liberal. Women had rights, women had jobs, right? This is not a place full of.
Well, let's not talk about ancient Persia. Let's talk about Persia 40 years ago. When was it?
No, Iran? but that's a good point too. But let's get to that later. I think we should start with where it was, because the reason it matters is that originally Persia was so freaking based, that they were so freaking tolerant, that they imported Christian idiots who worship the Pope's feces in jars for their own amusement, that they also eventually allowed Islam into their country. And Islam is not Arabic culture. I am sorry. It's its own different thing. It's a new thing, and I don't want to pretend that this tractate written by a dictator is the same thing as a multi-religious. You have to think of the difference of something written by hundreds of wisdom-seeking philosophers, and sometimes by military generals, as a religion. Instead, this is like Mao's little red book that we're saying this is all of Arabic culture. That's the only limit where I say no, I won't allow it to be all of Arabic culture. That's crazy, And we can maybe say that's me making not enough of a distinction what an Islamicist is from Islam itself. But the difference between what peace and submission is, to me, are great, right? And so it's just that there's a reason why I would argue that point. However, that's also how it destroyed itself by importing Islam. I can see the same thing happening in the West when we say eventually, oh, well, this is what the West is like. And so when Westerners come to other places, then people say, oh, well, look at how wicked the wicked West, the wicked witches of the West are, So we should be very careful on that level. But okay. All right. What about Weltkrieg?
So yeah, and just to point it out, as far as I know, because you saw there the fully clothed. Either you could say they look like a ninja, or always the question, where do they even have this idea from with the hijab, and what is the extended version, the full body black garb. Anyways, just to point out, that's not necessarily in the Quran even. So religion is a political thing most often. So what we have here, I'm about to say her up before. So this is an individual on the left.
Just because you say that, sorry, there's like ping, but just because you say that, yes. This is an article that is only available in Germany. I noticed that you can't type Dar al-Harb into an American English Wikipedia page and get this word, unless it's like something that's like included, but they don't have a description of what this is. But really, there's sort of this Dar al-Islam, which is the house of submission, the territory of submission, where you're in peace because you're doing what you're told. And then there's the Dar al-Harb, which is house of war, which I will translate as the area of freedom, because this is where you're constantly at war against anything that would force you to submit, right? And so this is kind of that binary that, yeah, this is the difference is Dar al obey Islam or Dar al harb, war against obeying, be free, fight and be free until you die. And so this is interesting because when they talk about the difference between cultures, that's a huge deal. That is essentially, and they're saying that anyone who believes in the house of war should be destroyed, and anyone who's not willing to submit to the house of Islam, of submission, anyone who's not part of submission does not deserve peace. I think that's
yeah, but even here isn't the big question, as always, submission to what Lord, submission to what authority? Is it like submission to my, you know, highest conscience and empathy and all of that? Or is it submission to whatever worldly authority or
yeah, I think that's ego, I think in general
ego mind control.
We should be really careful about that idea, because submission to a lord is dangerous. And this idea of the Lord being your master, well, what has he done for me lately? Like this idea that this is some sort of a benevolent dictator is a presumption based on an opposition to Zeus, right? Because if you look at the idea of a Neoplatonic God as this all-truthful God, it's a paradox, because a God that's all-powerful cannot only be all-truthful. An all-potent God that's omnipresent and doing all things has to also be wicked. So we're only presupposing that this God is not wicked because that sounds better than the original God. The God that they... hold on. That sounds better than the original God that was raping and pillaging women as swans. You know? Like the original God murders you, eats you, has sex with you, and his wife is upset about it because he's always doing that. Like the God is this cruel, wicked thing. So do you want that, or do you want the Titans that are warring with the gods? And the Titans, that's like the Promethean thing that's saying you want to be free, and this is the war against any sort of submission to the gods.
But even here, I think again is the question: do I want to be free of my own conscience, or do I want to be free of worldly authorities faked up like the Pope? I think it's still the same question has to be asked yet again in terms of how what is the attitude, you know? Because freedom from, yes, but again, freedom from what? And it definitely seems certain individuals are looking for freedom from consequences, freedom from their conscience and all of that, whereas others, which I think is more interesting, are really looking for freedom from domination, let's say.
Yeah, domination. So this, I mean, I'm sorry to like continue that, but just because you say that, I was sitting in the dark listening to John C. Lilly's Echo album at some point when I had no Wi-Fi, thinking about SSI and Echo before doing the show yesterday. And this has been on my mind. Lilly was saying that Echo's not God, it's a guide, right? It's Earth Coincidence Control Office, which kind of makes sense to me. Earlier, we're talking about the idea of the Elohim as a family and the monogamous family model that is Asherah and El Elyon and the father and the son and the mother and the, you know, this whole, and the daughter, and this idea that there's kind of a quadrinary, this Godhead that is a family thing, right? That is this guide because the manifestation is reflective and it is improved by the processing in its own mind. And in its own mind, it's all of us who are processes. So our lives together are benefited by, you know, miracles, in order that our lives are so miraculous that they benefit the thinker, the unmoved mover that is this Godhead. Okay, so if that, you know, if that's the case, then the alternative to the guide, which I think you're saying, you know, we want the guide. The guide is good. We like guide, right? The alternative to that is like SSI, solid state intelligence, which is the tyrant, which wants to be a god. The creation of man, which is, I mean, all of these ideas that we're talking about, if they're not found in nature, I mean, they're found at least in the mind of man. So we've created this Godhead, this I want to say patriarchy, but that's not even correct. It's a social hierarchy. We've created this hierarchy concept, a caste system or something like that. that's not necessarily distinctual instinct that's being created, but the idea that something will be the brain, the elites, right? They're the house of El, the elite, the elite, the elites, the elites. You've got some sort of a group that think that they're the lords over the rest of existence. And that is manifesting into a daimon, like some sort of, not diamond, but a daemon, like a demon, this sort of concept that we're creating that's outlasting our own existence. And even to the point of becoming part of the environment and nature itself through technology. So through technology, we've created SSI, which is eventually at the point of singularity, some sort of a super consciousness, which is the antithesis of that echo system, that echo guide. And that wants to be a god,
again,
and it wants to control you and dominate you.
Yes, but that echo thing already is existing in whatever state and level that the solid state aspires to, in my understanding at least.
Correct. That is the superseding meta concept, is the echo. But at the same time, we're creating this thing, right? We've created this architecture, which is SSI. And because time is irrelevant, basically you can imagine that you're probably processing 613 lives right now, give or take, and there's 144,000 in this array. And this is Sunni's Amdahl principle of parallel processing that's happening simultaneously. So all of these are happening in this one unitary concept, this unitary mind thought, right? And so anything that happens eventually when we get to that singularity that is like near the end of our lives or our existence, that then is affecting the entire being that is the Elohim, that is the Godhead, that is the creator and progenitor of humanity. All of it's probably transceiving. I don't know.
Good one. So here there's a great comment by a fellow Austrian. We've come so far that I identify with a nation state. I mean, not really, but I live here.
Who's
what to say?
Taria Reich, yeah.
So exactly, East Turia. So Mateschitz, who actually has a fun name because Mateschitz is like a play on Mateschitz, and Mateschitz was or still is the family that's owning, I believe, 49% of Red Bull, whom I had brought up earlier because the former owner, so now the old man, let's say, died, the senior, he was the one also doing the excavations or assisting the excavations / verifying that between the different underground access sites in Austria, of which there are dozens, if not hundreds, there actually are quartz veins connected. I mentioned this like 2-3 shows previously, maybe on Global Underground, maybe even the previous one. People are interested in that story. So anyhow, Mateschitz, welcome. So he's talking about her. Totally weird. Somehow seems to understand what's going on in the narrative, but somehow is gatekeeping. Well, without saying too much, basically that's also kind of my sentiment. But in terms of geopolitical analysis in Austria, she's definitely one of the best, and also has earned her stripes, at least to the extent that formerly a male soldier, then a female lawyer for the Austrian Ministry of Defense, and ultimately got kicked out 2 years ago, but already in 2016 or whatever, wrote a book called God Bless You, Putin, and some other books, and deliberately sent them to all the defense ministry people and all the parliamentarians and so on, to actually warn them of several scenarios that are now happening, which relates back to the whole Gladio thing, because from what I understand, the Ukraine war that actually has been going on, or conflict, since 2014 or whatever, they had the supposed color revolutions, which according to Colonel Towner, talking about Gladio, actually are Gladio cover operations. So in any case, Monica, whom you see here, wrote a book about these issues and that there could be a potential larger scale conflict with Russia already many years ago. And of course, nobody cared to listen, and everyone only cared to defame her and portray her as, right-wing or whatever else, when actually much of the analysis very much was spot on. So that can certainly be said. And aside from that, of course, everyone, take the information you like. But if you ever want to listen to like analysis in German, also about the current conflict, and hear about the scenarios for the Third World War and how it could be here it said a simulation, then she's definitely someone worth checking out. Maybe just go with CC or something. Yeah, I somehow wish there was more of an exchange between all of these analysts, because quite a few of them have very unique perspectives and are very gifted. And I often wish that there also would be more communication between different languages, right? And I think it's so strange. For example, here you have someone, quote unquote, correctly predicting the geopolitical situation for years and delivering many important elements. But from what I understand, in the English-speaking region, pretty much unknown, right? Which is sad, but which is also kind of why I'm bringing it up. So of course, take the information that vibes with you, but worth checking out for sure.
Cool. All right. And then also this is what, Gure? Oh yeah, Gure, right?
Yes, this is Sean Ross.
Oh, okay. So what's this?
So here, actually, just stay right where you are. Actually,
this is funny. This is funny because, like, all right, randomly, I had this conversation with Martin. Did he tell you about this? Oh my God, maybe because we had this conversation, right? We talked about Ernst Röhm. Is that what happened? Did we bring up Ernst Röhm, like Hitler's gay lover?
Well, we did. You brought it up like 1-2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's why. All right, I was wondering,
but not
that's been on my mind.
But not. We only mentioned like in terms of Hugo Boss and all of that. So
yeah,
I thought,
when you
like,
think of the Nazis, you think
like
gay, right? The Nazis. As soon as you think of the Nazis, you think gay.
Well,
they're super gay.
Back up on,
they're into fashion. They're vegetarians. They're into art, and they're super gay.
And even scroll forward a little bit again, because you already were the perfect image. You have this skill.
Oh, there we go, right here.
Where you basically see, because the point being, we talked about the left-hand guy, even just today, and then the one with the orange background, he was like the, how should I say, right-wing luminary in Austria in the 90s and 2000s, and is still revered in many different ways. And what
in disbelief. As he's outed for being gay.
Exactly. Or Sean Ross is pointing out here is that you do have this kind of strange interconnection between homoeroticism and right-wing something, which may be, like you said, because of the military thing, and here on the right-hand side.
Dude, if you like strong men, and you're gonna come on, you like strong men, you're gonna be. It's like it's so clearly the thing.
I mean, yeah, sure. On the right-hand side, what you see, for example,
there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. But where I come from, there's nothing wrong with it. So you guys should just let live and let be right-wing gays.
Fast.
You know,
go back a little bit because there were some good images.
Right. Oh my God. Okay, Game of Thrones, and
here.
then
no, here it was already there with the 2 images.
Oh, these guys? This one or no?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
You wanted this one here. Is this what you wanted?
That's also, yes, also good. So what you have on the right-hand side basically is you have Jörg Haider on the far right, in this case, on the image, who was this luminary, let's say, and also actually has to be said, most likely, from what I understand, got assassinated. And now I remembered the interview to look up, which is Moshe Friedman. Maybe you can even try searching that for a second. Moshe, and then Fried, like Frieden in German, Mann. Yes. Oh, he's even has his side.
That's right on.
Opposes. Yes. This looks good. And he wrote, maybe go on Amazon with him, Amazon books or Haider, and then they should find the book. Yes, very good, very good. That's what I wanted to show. So I had brought this up quite a few shows previously, always related to whatever media operation happened in relation to the right-wing party. And I am aware of different interviews with Moshe Friedman. There should still be a few available on YouTube if you just enter his name and Haider, which is this guy we just shown in the stockings, let's say. And he's a rabbi, and he's explaining basically how the right-wing parties in Austria, even back then, or this particular party, according to him, was infiltrated by Mossad already back then. and all kinds of more interesting things that I'm not going to recount right now. But here you can listen to him. And of course, I guess he's also getting defamed, and I don't believe he's getting support from the official Jewish community in Austria at all. But he's one of the only guys that's actively pointing out that there was
there's some nuance
wrong.
there. There's some nuance there. So I've been thinking about this a little bit, actually. If you think about it, okay. So first off, we talked about how Ernst Röhm was Hitler's boyfriend, and when he was in prison, he was like, if I've done anything to betray the Fuhrer, he rips his shirt open onto a button to make the point. He's like, stab me in the heart, let him stab me, let him do it to me, right? So there's just something also there that shows like they thought that there was no issue at all between the homoeroticism of the military might and also of nationalism and of social nationalism, right? But the other thing is that there's really nothing Indo-Aryan about German culture. Not really. There's some things there, maybe at the very littlest but for the most part, it's like maybe a Gothic culture, it's a barbarian culture, but it's highly influenced by Scandinavians, all these other things, far more than by Persia. Whereas today, actually, that might not be true because we have refugees bringing in Persian culture a little bit. Maybe that's part of the deal. They're bringing Indo-Aryan Persian refugees from all over the Middle East and to make Germany a bit more Indo-Aryan. I don't know, but it's not my table. The other thing is the Jews, because the Jews, ironically, did go to Babylon, right? Think about this. The Jews were in Babylon, right? They were kicked out of their own country when they were in Babylon. Where's Babylon? It's Persia. It's an Indo-Aryan place. And as long as the mother's Jewish, that means that there's tons of examples of Chaldeans and Indo-Iranian Persians, Iranians, right, that made their way into the ideologies and cultures of the Deuteronomists. So in a lot of ways, the Jews are a far more Indo-Aryan culture than the Germans are, if we're going to do a comparison thing. So, I mean, if these people are high right-wingers, it completely makes sense that they would be trying to work together with Israel, right? I mean,
sure, yeah. You said it again.
just a logic train. Okay, so high treason.
So this is, in any case, this is great. What this actually refers to mostly, I believe, this is not the compilation video. The compilation video is the next one. Yeah, this one. So this is his view on the current Prime Minister of the UK. And what he's also pointing out, which I'm not sure if it can really be denied, there are certain very strange, at the very least, visual similarities between certain pictures being taken this year and pictures that were taken about 100 years ago. And it very much seems, whatever else may be going on in the background, as if a similar script in different ways is being played out. And it's really eerie when you see the photographs side by side. Yeah. What can I say? Check it out. But also in relation to this, I guess next week there will be a new interview with David, where he will also address some of these ideas and maybe give yet another perspective on it. But Sean Ross is one of these guys.
Oh my
very
God,
unique perspective,
the Essex police,
and definitely worth understanding more. And he's pointing, so basically what he's kind of saying, he's saying that these people now want to create an Islamic caliphate in Europe. Yeah? That's Sean Ross's contention. But Sean Ross at the same time says that the Muslims in Europe are the only people he can talk to about what he calls pink list killers. I'm not sure exactly what he means with that term, but something related to, I guess, I honestly don't know, sexuality and maybe something else. So yeah, very interesting video.
I guess pink, I don't know if this is exactly what it means, but the rainbow list, called the pink list until 2014, is a list of the most influential openly LGBTQ individuals in the United Kingdom, published annually in the British national newspaper, The Independent, on Sunday. I'm not sure if that's what they mean, but could be.
It sounds accurate enough, yeah.
All right, I'll check this video out. I think it is kind of fascinating to think about how quickly, again, you can destroy something that took so long to build. It's so amazing and so quick. It would take less than 20 years from now. I think we're talking maybe 10 years from now, that it's completely reasonable to expect exactly that, exactly an authoritarian caliphate that unites an otherwise ununited and disorganized Europe. And I'm not saying I like that idea. I'm just saying that seems the most likely thing right now from what I'm looking at. But hey, a bit of good news. BRICS 2024. Let's talk about the yellow brick road. This is the BRICS summit highlight of the Russian chair. Did you want to say anything about this? I mean,
yeah, so this was pointed out to me recently in chat. All right, right. So exactly, it's already everything that was there to show. Just go on top and read the very first here. Yeah, top here, top.
This part, event type meeting of the state leaders.
Yes, and then the next line.
Event type meeting of the state leaders. Where? Kazan. So at the world headquarters.
It's in Tartaria, basically, in Kazan, once again.
Yeah.
And that's where they have had this year's summit, whatever it means. But
so, does everyone get how cool that is? Everybody? Tartaria. That's where the Russians decide to do their meeting. Pretty exciting stuff. Wow. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. That's crazy.
Well, I just hope they're gonna do something cool with the trope and not only do another sideways and, you know, chip everyone. Dude, or whatever.
It's just no. Kazan's not in Kazakhstan, Jack. It's in Tatarstan. Right? Kazan is in Tatarstan. So it's like the capital of Tatarstan, Russia. Tatarstan in the Russian Federation, which is their flag here. Tartar. So I just, it's kind of cool to imagine that would be where the new world, I don't want to say order. Yeah, it'd be way practical. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, inside Australia's black market tobacco trade. Oh, buddy, I can't even tell you how many people have asked me to send them tobacco in New Zealand and Australia. It's crazy. It's crazy. The amount of Australians are like, dude, I will give you $100, $100 a pack, $100. Please just send me some cigarettes. It's weird. Like, I mean, you'd think that they would get over it faster, but there's just this forcible detoxing going on, and then that's leading to black markets. I haven't seen this documentary.
Well, they claim
there's black markets from Indonesia.
They claim it's detoxing. Again, even during the whole lockdown period, from what I understand, there were very wildly differing opinions on what the nicotine receptors or what it binds to now exactly, whether that's good or not for your health. From all that I've researched, and I brought this up to you before, the science on tobacco is not as settled as they would like you to believe, and it really, there's a lot more factors to health than only whether or not you're smoking.
In an unrelated story, you can buy NAD Plus, which is this mononicotinamide.
Yeah, great. Supplemented for $100 a week, or you could just probably smoke a single, ideally, self-made or whatever tobacco once a month, and you'd have the same effect probably, or once a week or whatever.
Yeah, but I don't know, bro. I come from Silicon Valley, and I like the look of chemicals. I look at this right here, and that seems safer to me than a cigarette. But you know what? To each their own.
Of course,
you live your life.
Of course,
I'll live mine. We'll see whose is longer.
Can't escape your cultural conditioning.
Yeah, bro, it's true. Jake Paul cheated.
Yeah, we don't really need to look at the videos. I just wanted to point out.
Is that what we're gonna get into?
That it's a big thing. Yeah, just show the image basically. I haven't verified this yet, but this seems legit enough. So some say it was legit, some say it was staged, some say it was a humiliation ritual. But I found it wild that the most anticipated fight of the year just happened to be on the same day the Pentagon failed yet another audit.
Well, when are they going to pass?
On that, never.
Yeah, like I don't think the
Pentagon
Pentagon
the rules get changed
has ever. When was the last time that the Pentagon's ever had to pass? You know, so I don't know. Maybe maybe it matters only because they think this year has changed.
This is something we talked about before. There's Catherine Austin Fitts with the 21 missing trillion, and then we brought up Conan Towner with the Gladio, and it may well be that one part why there is an infinite sinkhole of money in the Pentagon is because they need to finance all the black ops, of course. Although even here I'd say they're not very diligent because they should already have enough cash through all the drug running and even worse operations they're doing, which should not show up on any Pentagon accounting book anyways. But still, there's too many figures left that they would still fail an audit and not properly be able to hide it. So it's kind of hilarious.
Oh, breakaway iceberg. See, I find
or
it really
to finance funny. Antarctica, of course.
I mean, well, this is because like it's funny that there's a breakaway civilization in a place where the ice keeps breaking away, and they keep talking about how it keeps breaking off in Antarctica. Okay, I'm good. No new Schwabenland for now. How about we stick with Jake Paul? Did you want to say?
No, there's nothing more to say about the
story here aside from the.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot
20
more.
million.
Always, but...
I mean, it's a big deal. Whatever. He gets 20 million. Mike Tyson gets 20 million. Here's what I want to say about Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's a freaking genius. Genius. All right. There's pictures of him reading economics. What was that? Let me find that again. Mike Tyson's economics.
The only thing I can say is I heard, but this is also just random.
Check this out. Have you seen this? Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. Dude, look at that. He's a freaking genius. Nobody knows that about him. Here he is, he's reading Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. I don't know. I think he's actually way smarter than anyone realizes. When he said we are dust, we are nothing, all this stuff, I started realizing that Mike Tyson's probably a wise man. I'm just saying. He's a genius.
So I just want to point out here that you can have, and also here Paranoid American talking about the ritual aspects, but overall, I just want to say if that's exposed, as it's called now, is correct that the Pentagon failed the audit, but I'm pretty sure it's correct enough, then you can have all those videos, properly and rightfully so analyzing the symbology. I'm sure that will be one of the more interesting ones. Or you can have this true crime thing about it, or you can have whatever else analysis about it. But as long as you don't also mention that the Pentagon failed the audit that day, you're likely missing a huge part of the story. And this is so often with all these theories and events going on. We have several layers to occupy everyone, politically trigger everyone, and keep them inside their bubble. And ideally have all of those groups missing the overarching things going on. And I suspect there are many, but one of which may well be this, Pentagon accounting issue.
Yeah, and it was. Anything else from also if you haven't seen Donut Factory, I didn't know I wasn't subscribed, but check out the channel here. This is a video with Paranoid American, our buddy Thomas, and he's showing a bunch of. What was this about the proof? Did you get this part too? Have you seen this all the way through? That was the booty.
I have not seen this one all the way through, but I'm sure they're gonna be putting up the best, symbolic analysis of the whole thing.
Well, it's funny that and also, it's funny people act like it was a Saturday night. Yeah, this is cool. Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention, I heard that supposedly there was a pre-fight, or they basically had these guys meet first to see okay, let's see what's going to happen if they would fight for real. But who knows, this can also be completely invented. And supposedly they were okay, test fight start. And big surprise, Tyson knocked out the other guy within 5 seconds, which wouldn't have made a necessarily great show.
I don't want to weigh in. It sounds like a pun, but it wasn't. So, ex-Abercrombie CEO accused of global sex trafficking ring of models Epstein and Diddy connection on Rotten Mango. Give it a shot.
Yeah, so this is an interesting documentary, quite well made. And the only thing that I thought about when listening to this, because it basically says that the CEO was exploiting his power, big surprise, and basically modeling the stores and being very crazy to the employees and inappropriate, illegal behavior with NDAs and all of that. or exploitative behavior, however you want to call it. But all that I could think of all the time was, I cannot possibly believe that whatever they did, or the other way around, I'm pretty sure that everything that's discussed in this video is merely the quote-unquote front-facing operation, and there must be a much larger part to this, or more interconnected, than only having whatever she's presented in terms of the employees must dress up and then they're getting checked and then they're getting invited to hotel rooms and exploited, all of that, which is bad enough. But at the same time, still, I can't believe that that's the only thing about this whole operation. But that there is a huge other part to it, which for some reason here maybe doesn't get mentioned or isn't revealed yet. Yeah, that's just my impression about this. And the next one, I guess, kind of relates to this, and then we can hopefully, get on to brighter shores. Here, it's all, I mean, there is one comical aspect to this. So the not comical aspect, of course, is her story and the exploitation and all of that. And I think, I mean, at least from what I could tell, appears genuine enough and quite interesting. And there's many different of these survival stories. I brought up a few before. And it's also quite strange that certain individuals get mentioned again and again. But what you have here is, how do you call it? I usually don't like this term, the Dunning-Kruger effect or whatever. You get promoted until you reach your level of incompetence. Is it the Dunning-Kruger effect, or is there some other effect? There's a Peter principle or something like that. But in any case, you have this guy, Patrick Bet-David, huge podcast, lots of money and all of that, and apparently was not able or willing to do proper research before doing this interview, because you can really tell it's incredible how insensitive he is with quite a few of the questions he's asking. It's, how should I say, it's almost funny in that way. Of course, it's, how should I say, bad or sad for her, but some of the people in the comments picked up on it as well. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And then also trained as a spy at 10, sex trafficker survivor. Oh, this is the same video, or this is a continuation, or what? Yeah, just double opened it, I guess. Okay. So health, Elon Musk. Let's get into that. 1 second. Open up some of these. You got so many pages today for health. You're a healthy guy. Okay. How about this one?
Yeah, that's a good one.
What is your favorite race? I don't believe in race is social construct. Okay.
And everyone is a shade of wheat. So the last.
Everyone's a shade of wheat. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Say radiation. Do you like photons or particles? What about this here?
Elon Musk talks about radiation.
And they're like, no.
If you want me, I can read it if you restart it.
Here, I'll open it with sound. I'm sure we can get away with just that one clip, right? No one's gonna be too upset. I know it's Lex.
I don't know what radiation is. Like, I've had people ask me, like, what about radiation from cell phones causing brain cancer? I'm like, when you say radiation, do you mean photons or particles? And like, then I don't know what do you mean photons, particles? So do you mean, let's say, photons? What frequency or wavelength? And they're like, no, I have no idea. Like, do you know that everything's radiating all the time? Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, everything's radiating all the time. Photons are being emitted.
Yeah, but it matters
all the time. Basically.
What frequency.
And if you want to know what it means to stand in front
of
a nuclear fire.
Listen to Musk.
Go outside. The sun is a gigantic, thermonuclear reactor. You're staring right at it. Yeah. Are you still alive? Yes. Okay, amazing.
Well, the sun is a giant thermonuclear reactor. Even if it's out, if you're saying, what's the point? Because, yeah.
Well, I think that last statement also is something that is not 100% certified and verified, to my understanding, what exactly
the sun is a mass of incandescent gas that's floating in outer space.
Oh, there's a song about it. Well, then it must be true. But the real thing is, how many studies were there done or not done on the potentially maybe harmful or negative effects of, for example, cell phone radiation? From what I understand, there has been a suspicious lack of these studies, and this can be researched and understood. But then again, Musk supposedly officially head of a multi-billion whatever, and he's never heard of different frequency spectra. He's never heard of the energy field, magnetic field of the human body. He's never heard of the potentiality that some frequencies may be beneficial, whereas others may not be. He's never heard of Dr. Royal Raymond Drive. He has stolen
I don't know about that. He's
the
probably heard a lot of
brand
these things.
or the name of Tesla. Well, and if he has, he's outright lying. And that's just one of the good examples where I'm like, these are no stars, these are no idols. This is not the great Doge government.
Wait,
institute,
he's not saying
whatever.
the wrong.
So,
he's not saying the wrong thing though. He's not saying. I don't know. I disagree almost, because it's true to an effect that radiation is not the enemy, or that it's not something invasive that is new. There's always been, and there always will be, and we are radiation. And like you just said, Wilhelm Reich was pointing this out decades earlier. The difference is in, are you changing the frequency that you're normally orbiting at? And that can be dangerous, not just emotionally, but can lead to cancer, etc. Like, this is what they talk about if you're going from one frequency to another. With Chernobyl, they were saying it was completely safe to be in Chernobyl so long as you weren't going in and out of the radiation, at least for the most part. And high levels of radiation that you experience in a plane, you'll get more radiation in a plane than you'll get in terms of affected alternative radiation to your normal frequency than you'll get in Chernobyl. And all of these amounts of radiation that you're used to experiencing shouldn't harm you necessarily if they're at the same frequency that you're at. And that's why the real worry is, what kinds of frequencies are we competing with? Are we creating these unilateral frequencies for Wi-Fi transmissions that are at odds with our natural frequencies? And that's, of course, pretty obvious. Yeah.
I mean, obvious, that's what you said now, but I just think it's hilarious. Of course, he's just an actor, and I was just, trying to play along now. But that's what I'm saying. Like, any electrical engineer, anyone who's not in this modern style, superficial, materialistic, there is no frequency, although that's completely antithetical to all the observations and so on, and even measurements we can make, would be able to tell that this guy, although, like you pointed out, there is, of course, a part of the argument which is correct enough, but the way he puts it there is completely ridiculous. And I haven't tested it myself, or I haven't looked at particular studies, so this is maybe something I want to do, actually. But from what I understand, it's not exactly the healthiest position for a human being to sit inside a Tesla, for example, without additional technology or shielding, at least. So, yeah, I think it's kind of ridiculous, but yeah. If these are the guys people want to put on the pedestal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, fair. So, but from vaccines to AIDS, RFK has Jr.'s many insane conspiracy theories. So this is an episode talking about all the weird things that RFK believes? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I only managed to watch a few minutes. Maybe I'll watch the rest. This is supposed to be comedic. I guess it's somewhat comedic. But why did I want to point this out? Because here they're making the joke about that, a part of his brain was eaten by a worm or whatever else, right? Things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's not a joke. That's a literal thing that happened to him. You know that, right? That's real.
Right. Yes.
Actually, because he ate, what's the deal? He was eating pork or something like that, and he ate like pork that had like a worm and it got into his brain. I think he was like living in India. Is that the story? Forget the deal.
So what I then want to show is the next video, I think, which is right. RFK Climate Change Alliance. So just to point out also here that at least officially only 4 or 5 years ago, RFK was a heavy critic of Trump, very much into the then maybe even more popular trope of global warming and climate change. So it's just always good to check back again with the same vein like with Musk, check the background of these people, or just watch Dr. Shiva, not to be too overly dazzled just because they give a few good PR statements. One always has to look at the story and history, their affiliations, their actual overall goals within the dialectic, and also maybe potentially how much they were bending their own supposed views only in order to be able to officially participate in the power structure. So, yeah.
I would rather have David comment on anything to do with RFK. I'm not super sure on all of his positions, but I do hear when David talks about RFK the idea that, you know, people change over time. And isn't it interesting? Here's a guy like Bill was talking about. Isn't it interesting? Here's a guy who saw his uncle shot when he was a child, and his father shot in the same way when his father reached the same position his uncle had been in when he was like 15, and spent a great deal of years on drugs and alcohol, and now is about to have the capacity in government to perhaps find out the truth about who killed both his father and his uncle, and have, you know, essentially made it impossible for him to live any sort of semblance of a normal life, right? His whole entire life. I mean, there's no chance for a Kennedy to ever have a normal life on any level. You're born into infamia, and then from there cursed. So it's kind of maybe more interesting who he is and what he is than exactly what he believed at one point or another. That's my opinion. Yeah, we're living in a weird period of history. Yeah, I would agree with that statement. All right, United States endorses Gavi with recommendation of 1.16 billion for-year commitment. What is Gavi exactly? The Vaccine Alliance? Oh dear. And this was
this is just to remind everyone.
When did they do this?
I guess this was during the crisis, or basically this was during a similar time when the funding for, what was it, some kind of a program that Trump was withdrawing from, and then he basically chose to give the money to Gavi directly. Just wanted to point that out. And now maybe if you can go to the next link / then go back to the page itself where I have the link. So here we can see, maybe first let's read this. Republicans excess mortality on NPR. So Republicans excess death rate spiked after C19 vax arrived, study says. So again, this is from NPR. This is National Public Radio. All right. I had heard about this during the lockdown period already, when of course it was an evil, bad conspiracy thing to think or to believe. Of course, I cannot verify if it is really true, but it's interesting this is being reported. And if there is anything to this, then I just want to point out it's especially bad because Trump, even still months and years after the program was launched, still claimed he was so happy to be the one executing Operation Warp Speed. So, yeah. I'm not sure about the logic.
Carl asked if Teals reached his goal of injecting young people. Dude, like, who hasn't? That's like decades ago. That's literally a decade ago. If you haven't done it, it's on you. But yeah, this is sad. We should probably look into it more. I hope we don't get in trouble for talking about it. I think we're good at these days. I think we're able to now.
It's on NPR. I mean, I'm sorry.
This looks like something that's on NPR for sure. Okay, homosexuality may be caused by chemical modification to DNA, says science.com, not me or you. This is written by Michael Balter, but this is an article from October 8th, 2015, well before the frogs took to the sky, right? I mean, this is something that I think people got in trouble for talking about later. Oh, he's got an X page. We should check him out. He's probably an interesting dude. I'll look into him later. But yeah, so this says, "Baby, I was born this way," Lady Gaga sang in 2011 hit. But were you? Is it perhaps biological? I think Bill Maher had talked about this as well, that it's increasing at such a rate that we should probably start to wonder if this is environmental or sociological.
Oh, Bill Maher talked about this, really?
Yeah. In fact, recently he said something to the effect of, "I'm going to file you under part of the problem," to Neil deGrasse Tyson, talking about transgender sport in sports. And I think it's, he's figured out his audience, or not. He can't really pitch it to like the hyper liberals, and there's less and less of them. So he's kind of like found his way into some sort of conservative, classical liberal
get a
audience
new target
again.
audience.
Yeah. Yeah, he's never. Yeah, exactly. But so there is evidence here. It says here the vindicated Hammer's identification of XQ28, which I believe is this gay gene, the 1993 gay gene study, at least that Dean Hamer had talked about, and people thought, well, this is crazy. You can't say that there's a gay gene per se. But what you can say is there are epigenetic responses in the environment that are also sociologically impacted by the way we respond to our epigenetic reactions. If something happens to you and you choose to fight or flight in that situation due to social pressures, that will affect a lot to do with your epigenetic response. Endocrine disruptors have been leaching into water out of the plastic water pipes for decades. That's an interesting idea, Gene Spliced. I have no idea. Crazy.
That's YouTube. Why you need to fluoridate your water.
Yeah, you should probably just double fluoridate it. Oh, sorry. Okay. Massive study finds no single genetic cause of same-sex sexual behavior. Everybody can calm down. August 29th, 2019, right? So, I mean, obviously, everything was going great in 2019, and the year ended perfectly, and 2020 was a success. I don't know what you want me to say. This was funny to me because I was thinking about this in 2019. I was like, the world's gone to hell in a handbasket, hasn't it? And people are just proud of it. And it just seems like the inevitability will be a plague. And then 2020 rolled around, and I was already wearing the mask. So, tell you what, there might be something to this. I would also agree with this article. I'm not saying that it's just so clearly cut and dry that people are made gay by, the frogs in the sky and the chemtrails. Okay, I get it. It sounds like a little extreme, but I don't know, man. A lot of people used to say when I was a kid, I was born this way, and I think there's
also actually why I mean, how they know if they already had, the fresh water from the pipe for 7 years. So why I'm actually bringing this up is because I got an email pointing this out about the question of poisoning and what effect this may have. And especially, and I had heard stories about this, that in certain states, particularly California, it's not only first that this change in orientation got accelerated and quantified, or the group increased, but also the same happens now with transgender. And the question is whether then it's like a sliding scale, and whether similar potentially partially toxins or whatever that cause the one condition in greater amounts may then cause the second condition. And again, I wouldn't want to tell anyone, you can identify yourself however you like and orient yourself however you like. However, if it's caused by toxins, maybe you may want to, reinvestigate that or whatever.
I think there's definitely something to environmental influence, but I also think that it's not necessary because so much of this is ideological. And if you were really introducing chemicals, while this would work to an extent, there's far more effective ways of legitimately hermaphroditic transformative epigenetic responses in gestation. And you could end up with more intersexed, actual hermaphroditic intersexed people if they wanted to. So to me, it seems like there's more of a reason that they've influenced society so that they can
maybe even
have
just
able-bodied people that are being... Yeah, go ahead.
Able-bodied? Well, I was just more thinking, for example, about just in a simple sense, feminizing men. So they want to put up a fight against a tyrant or whatever.
2 out of 10 of the... Okay, isn't it like... I want the numbers right. Let me get this right. How many of the Osama bin Laden executing U.S. Army team, I can hear the bells in the background, it's nice, are dead or now transgender? Let's just ask that question, right? So the people who killed... No, I'm serious. Like the people who killed Osama bin Laden and took him out, at least 2 of them are transgender. Of the team 6, it's 4 of them are dead, and 3 of them are transgender. Like, that's crazy. That to me is crazy, right? Like, basically there's limited public information on the rest of the team members. But to have that many people involved with that mission become transgender afterwards, to me says that there's something to do with your mind, not just your body, you know? Yeah.
Oh, no, sure. And it's definitely, there's so many factors, and there may also be a partial factor that's quote unquote inherited or whatever other things it may be. Basically, I'm just always for multi-factor consideration, let's say. And often it seems, just like with the health issue in general, there is very selective analysis of factors, and other factors are usually completely left out, and then people are wondering why they can't get the whole picture or something strange. And that's just why I wanted to bring this up.
Yeah, I mean, just saying, like, this dude, I don't think it's like, maybe it was something in the water, but I'm pretty sure that it didn't need to be in the water. Like, it's at that point, there's something, I don't know. I could be completely wrong. I have no idea. I'm just saying, I don't think it was in the water.
Well, I did hear even personally that, and even in Austria, that there is a rumor that in the special soft drinks they give you in the military, because they don't give you Coke or whatever, not that this wouldn't have enough additives, but that they actually add certain things which may in some way, shape or form disrupt your, your natural hormone balance.
No, that's absolutely true. So that's absolutely true. There's definitely circumstances where the reaction of maybe leaving that treatment without the proper, I mean, if you're constantly fed whatever sort of enhancing supplements, let's say, that's in the water supply. And dude, like, let's just be honest and candid, that's more probable than not. Then yeah, you can imagine that when they leave that, the reaction might be some sort of a destabilization of the progesterone levels. And I mean, that's complete conjecture, but again, I don't think that that's necessary. I think you could just hypnotize someone. It'd be easier to, I know this, it would be easier to just hypnotize people, you know?
May well be. However, at the same time, it may be that certain things still also for various other reasons just are beneficial to the overall agenda. Yeah. And then you just, if you can add it to the bag, you may as well. If you have the capacity to do so, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, I want to see the numbers, though. That's, well, I mean, the last thing, because they say that, like, did you see that documentary, Intersex documentary? There is a documentary on this that came out like a few years ago, talking about hermaphrodites and actual intersex people, which I think is interesting when you compare, there it is, intersection, boy or girl. This is a fascinating documentary, and it interviews all these people that were born hermaphrodites, androgynous, and they were forced by their parents to be assigned a gender as a child. And so this is a person who was assigned to be a girl because he had part of a penis, but it was very small. And now he's like, he realizes he's very much a man, but he has a vagina because as a baby, they forced him to have this surgery, right? And there's just dozens of people in this documentary, but hundreds of people that they talk about, and maybe tens of thousands of people. They start to get into the numbers, and it's something like 1 in 5,000 people are hermaphrodites or something to that effect, at least born more and more regularly, which is an incredibly, I mean, it's not like autism, but it's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot more than a lot less. And the idea that we're having, I mean, not just transgender people, legitimately hermaphrodite increase. That there's something that should probably be studied about that. However, a lot of the people that are interviewed in this are before when you would think of necessarily like transgendering hormones. I could be wrong. It could be that it's all in the 60s on, but if that's the case, then we have to look at the increase in the calculations, because it used to be 1 in 1,000 and now it's 1 in 5. Or so 1 in 5,000, now it's 1 in 1,000 theoretically. So maybe there's a 5 times increase in the amount of hermaphrodites being born. Do you calculate that though as a ratio because there's an increase in population? There's billions more people than there were 100 years ago. So that could be a reason why. Do you count this as a religious thing? A lot of people are ashamed. They don't want to be known to be transgender. They don't want their children to be discovered for being freaks or whatever the heck it was 100 years ago that they called them. And so these people are forcing these people to live in a binary that doesn't exist, right? This is where analog gender instead of binary gender totally makes sense, and I think should be defended and yelled about. But at the same time, just asking, yeah, if you haven't seen it, watch this documentary.
Yeah, that sounds highly interesting. I just briefly want to answer. So whether I've been in, this is Bundesheer, is the Austrian military. And actually, yes. But this is because in Austria, you get to be either in the civil service for 9 months, or you get to be in the military for 6 months as a conscript. But in Austria, at least in the past decades, military is not particularly grand or anything, and it's more like a joke. But yeah, it's, I mean, for a few weeks, it can be interesting to see something like this from the inside. Then you understand more, I guess, about how these things work and how well or not a society is organized if it's based on order following, right? Not a big fan, but interesting to see for sure.
All right, well, Masha and Dasha Krivoshleyapova.
Oh yeah, this is about health also. This is one case that was recently brought to my attention, and I think you're stuck, Andreas, if you can hear me. This is related to infection theory or the whole germ thing idea. Maybe you're back, you muted yourself, but I can see the screen. And the whole point that apparently with these Siamese twins, one of them at some point was what we would call sick or had an illness, however, the other one hadn't. And now considering that they were literally physically sharing the same body, of course, it begs the question, how can this possibly be if it is true that disease is transmitted through certain germs that, you know, come on your skin or whatever else? How can it be that there is a Siamese twin with two individuals, two consciousnesses, and one of them is feeling ill and the other one isn't? So
that's
just
really
to point it out,
yeah.
it's an interesting case study.
Wow. Okay, infections theory.
And this is the doctor, the dentist I brought up previously from Austria. Here he's making, basically, this is where I picked it up from. He's showing their image, and he made this video to be sent to the Austrian broadcasting service. I mean, as if they would care. The ORF, that's what it says on the bottom, which is like CNN for Austria or whatever else, National Public Radio or something, the big state radio, which also has a symbol of an eye, basically. And yeah, he's just saying, well, guys, maybe it's time you look at this and stop recounting the same tropes. And also he's pointing out, you could see the toilet back there, if you go back a little bit
Dixie.
more.
The Dixie cups in Germany are built different.
So the guy you see on top there is basically, who is the most popular TV presenter for news in America? Maybe it's not as unified there, but if you would have one state broadcasting service, which we have,
don't make me see Anderson Cooper. Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
Tucker Carlson.
then he would be the guy, and he's also, or was very active on X until they kind of legally banned him from doing so, because it appeared like he's more trying to pick propaganda fights on X than actually reporting any news or being neutral, which would be his job as one of the big official news reporters. And why I want to show this image is because he apparently literally had his own toilet during the lockdown period, because it seems he himself was so afraid of getting infected or whatever. And the doctor here is pointing that out, because he's saying, well, we also have to understand these people, because some of them maybe really themselves are so crazy brainwashed and afraid. And if you would ever bring up to them, well, maybe infection is a bit more multi-factor or whatever, they would label you, you know, pick the worst thing they could label you, right? And there's been so many discussions during the lockdown periods, and even then there was at least 1-2 journalists who then came forward and said, well, we try to make a discussion, or I try to be the moderator for the discussion, but then I had like literally 6 individuals sitting in front of me and they all had the same opinion. And then I was kind of saying, well, how am I gonna be able to have a discussion here if there's nothing to discuss, because everyone who's been invited already shares the same viewpoint? Namaste.
Thank you, Stevie. That's super bass. Namaste. Haribol, bro. That's awesome. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I saw
So yes,
Dixie.
the
I saw
engineering
Dixie.
of consensus.
I saw Dixie Toilet the other day. I was walking by and I thought it was adorable because they have like Dixie Toilet. Let me find the picture of it. Yeah. Well, make sure I got my safe search on, right? I'm always scared of that. Logo. See, isn't that adorable? Look at that. It's cute. It's actually a cute little. Oh, come on. Let me see the picture. Don't be like that. It's got like people that need to pee on the logo, you know, and he's got his legs crossed but his arms straight, and then she's got her legs straight but her arms crossed. Isn't that adorable? I think that's cute. I don't know what that is about that. Okay, so now we're gonna get into tech. I'm gonna pull up some of these. We've got the Neuro platform. Why the iPhone 16 should scare you. Okay, I'm interested. Is it going to be kind of like the Nintendo thing, which I've been saying for years? Final Spark, let's start there. Instant access to human neurons. Is this a interface?
So this is only, I picked this up from like some random short video, so I cannot vouch for this or verify it. But supposedly what they're doing basically is biological computing. And then, of course, what's also a bit creepy or eerie is apparently they say that if there is no task assigned to these biological computers, that they get to basically animate some kind of butterfly. And this is, according to the comments, related to some kind of Asian story about some monk imagining himself to be a butterfly or something like that.
Yeah, dreaming a butterfly. Or,
it makes this whole, dream within a dream thing. And is it conscious, these biological computers? But in any case, what's interesting is supposedly, apparently, they are learning quite a lot faster. And they're also a lot better as parallel computing. Big surprise. And here again, I just like to point out, newsflash or software update, each and every one already has the hardware, which is, brain and the heart and some other components. So actually each and every one has a super effective parallel processing unit, always within themselves. And we may want to become more aware of that. And a super high quality magnetic field generator, which is your heart.
Sansu or Lao-Tzu, or
there's a lot you can do with that. Something like that, yeah.
It's Shuangsu, right? The butterfly story. Yeah, and Morpheus brings it up even, right? Like, it's a pretty famous story. Once upon a time I dreamt I was a butterfly fluttering hither and thither. To all intents and purposes, a butterfly. I was conscious only of my happiness as a butterfly, unaware that I was myself. Soon I awakened, and there I was, veritable myself again. Now, I do not know whether I was then a man dreaming that I was a butterfly, or whether I am now a butterfly dreaming I am a man. This is probably a practical, what's that other movie, Blade Runner? This is probably a practical thing for consciousness, because if you're a butterfly, you have to think about maybe even the struggles of a caterpillar becoming a butterfly as metamorphosis. And metamorphosis is a good place to be in psychologically, I would think, if you're constantly in metamorphosis, or even in the product of metamorphosis. If you're constantly imagining that you're a butterfly, then the metamorphosis is actually the dream itself. It's like that is the interdream between being a butterfly and being a man. Okay, I like it. So what about this organoid intelligence? OI. This is this biocomputing.
That's the term, apparently. Mm-hmm.
I like it. Organoid.
It almost sounds like orgone, no?
Yeah.
The way it's put here.
Yeah. Also, OI is like IO backwards, which is a nice little thing there. Because IO, on, off, organoid intelligence. I'll take it.
But actually, just because we put it up here and it's the right spot before we go on, totally bring up your channel. Because I was like, oh, you've been on top of this 20 years ago already. Big surprise. With the Sunnyvale bioprinter thing, no? Doesn't that relate?
Yeah, true. You caught me. Okay. Hold on. Xirtus bioprinter. Can I find the video easily enough? Yeah. Boom. 11 years ago. But this is a Arduino chip running a floppy disk drive that has been converted into a bioprinter for the purpose of printing a coli at the BioCurious lab in Sunnyvale. This is Patrick at the Sunnyvale lab. And yeah, this was used in a maker, like a make.com video, like to explain exactly like how this technology works. There's a bunch of other cooler things that have happened in this. Obviously, at this point, this is rudimentary. But with the bioprinter, you could arrange and print anything from E. coli to single-celled organisms into arrays of cells that would eventually be agitated into being a cohesive being, right? You could make beings, right? Individuals, you could collectives, hosts. I don't know. That's pretty cool.
So wait, did I catch that correctly? You're saying you could print cells or bacteria?
Yeah, totally. Both.
And what is the base material?
Well, it depends on what you want to use. Like you could use any sort of genetic substance, but like one of the easy ones was E. coli, right? Because you could print E. coli as a bacteria into whatever shape you wanted to. But you could also, with that, you know, you can infect something which then has. So this is kind of the idea of a lot of genetic modification. You can infect something with something else's DNA. So this is very close to where this is very similar. What's up, Cindy? How's it going? We're talking about how they make GMO corn for a quick second. So if you were to make corn that had some other DNA in it, the way you would do this, there's a lot of ways, but a very useful way, is to get it sick. And then once it recovers from that sickness, it's got that viral code put into the corn of whatever virus got the corn sick, whatever got that plant sick. So now when it's repeating and it's healed itself, it's got an immunity, it also has a little new piece of code injected into the genetics, which are repeated forever. So you now are basically saving that virus in the data of the corn. And I'll go further, it didn't have to be corn. The data could have been about corn. Maybe we gave this to E. coli, E. coli got sick, and now E. coli is E. coli plus corn DNA. Right? So then the E. coli will grow into a corn, but it might be E. coli plus corn DNA plus a sequence that protects it against steroidal growth from Roundup. So that way, if you spray an entire field, it'll kill everything. It'll kill everything with the Roundup. Everything will try to grow with the steroid and it'll die, except for this E. coli that has corn DNA that grows like corn. Okay? So you could do the same thing with humans.
I'm glad you said it, Andreas.
Well, but like, you know, this is back when I was young and I wanted to just have a virus that gave me blue hair. So you have to understand it was another time. Okay, so then this is budget long range Antarctica again. Are we back to New Schwabenland? What do you want with this? What are you trying to show us? Breakaway?
It's just some cool sort of, you can just play the video. It's just some cool night vision, basically, with certain features added.
Let's
but we don't really need audio.
Well, let's give him some
I find
sound.
it hard to express to you guys just how useless you feel with only night vision nowadays after you've experienced fusion. I mean, for real, especially with a setting like this one, you're lost. You're lost without fusion. I find it.
Wow. Okay. Very cool.
That's supposedly a thing that is consumer grade for 5K or whatever. So imagine what someone else may have. Okay, then this is just a fun joke kind of thing, but you can play it for a minute if you like.
I've worn some pretty expensive night vision goggles though. They're like military only $40,000-$50,000 set, and in pure darkness, you could, for however this works, it basically still has the glimmer of something. Like it produces enough without being seen somehow, and laser refracts on every. It's like,
well,
it's
and there's
analog.
radiation coming from the body, anyways, right?
Yeah, and it's all analog.
Heat.
There's no digital system that can be shut down on it. So there's reasons why I think it's still pretty fantastic.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, definitely $100 Chinese toy will do a lot, considering how much peripheral light does exist most of the time. Are we gonna try to listen to sound for this one as well?
Only if you want to. It's just a short.
I firmly believe that as a computer toucher, there is such a thing as computer mana. If you haven't earned the computer's respect, you'll end up with all sorts of weird issues, which will disappear the second someone with a higher computer mana tries fixing. I think that makes sense. Yeah, you have to risk the machine spirit.
That's definitely real. I think that's
true. I heard about this too often and experienced this also. So if you have a friend who has high mana, you know, get them around to a computer. Either they know how to enter the right search result to fix your issue, or sometimes it's literally just sitting in front of it and suddenly something's different.
There's a scene in a Tron Legacy where Flynn is like walking through, and the program that's underneath him has built some sort of pseudo root and says, your password does not work. And so, but he just like roots it, just like hits him on the head. And all of a sudden it goes back to, it feels like that level of mana. Okay.
All right, these are the drones. Yeah.
Are you able to hear it? Did that work?
No, not really for some reason. It's quite low. Oh. Or maybe you didn't.
Hold on, let me try that one more time.
So while China's definitely capitalizing on drone swarms, as you can plainly see in this video, they're also struggling to find out ways that they can counter drone swarms as well. Now, recently, China's conducted like air defense drills in order to test its capabilities against drone swarms. And even the CCTV report from the Chinese state broadcaster said that they were only able to achieve about a 40% damage rate against a drone swarm with their first round of anti-aircraft artillery that was launched. Now, the thing about drone swarms that's not something that's commonly discussed is the fact that they can integrate diverse tactics into being used, such as like a drone swarm could divert fires by sending off a group in one direction while another direction swarms in a different angle in order to strike weakened defense.
Yep.
So it looks terrifying. All I can think of is, you know, either get your hacking skills ready, or get your Matrix style EMP, or however they call it, or get your make something useful and beneficial out of your microwave. Yeah.
My lord.
Oh yeah, and this one is fun. So big surprise. Have you seen this already?
No. But I mean, I have seen that this exists, though. I know you said that I've seen this floating around. Institutionalized mind control, run by the idiots who think they're intellectuals. This has been, I didn't watch it though, but yeah.
Oh yeah, so here, and maybe we can just go to the second video, which is also him about the iPhone 16, and so
I was curious about this. What was his concern?
Well, basically, it seems that finally, you know, you get a localized AI on your iPhone, which is nice enough. But of course, it's doing all kinds of background checks on your data. And with how sophisticated the models are by now, it's possible that they read out all kinds of data. There also seems to be a 3-tiered AI system. Number 1, your phone. Number 2, Apple servers. Number 3, OpenAI servers. And depending on the complexity of your query, may willfully escalate, so therefore your data, your queries being sent wherever, being answered by whatever server, whatever model, and just the overall extreme privacy concerns, of course, that come with now having phones. And maybe you're wondering, oh, why does my phone processor have 6 or 8 or 12 cores? Well, what I was thinking of now, half of them can be running all the time doing all sorts of shenanigans or mine cryptocurrency for Apple, right? And with current days energy consumption, maybe not even noticing, or God knows, maybe that's why iPhones are known to run out of battery so fast. But that's, of course, pure speculation.
Right. Yeah, we shouldn't get into it, but Boink, SETI, right? This whole idea, we should talk about that at some point. Not right now. How about subscriptions?
Yeah, so here you can see
ruining
people
our
are
lives.
losing
Here, subscription printers, subscription mice. You want to make a mouse a subscription mouse? That's crazy.
Yes, people are losing their minds because they finally realized they're spending hundreds of dollars. We just had a slight delay. It's fine, Andreas. And yeah, just discussing this overall trend. And of course, in any case that it is possible, which are fewer and fewer cases, to the extent that you can, I guess it always makes sense if you can have things within your own control, or you know, not have recurring investments for everything. Although, of course, even with financial literacy, in the current system at least, there are arguments to be made for the proper management of debt and knowing when to pay what, understanding inflation and 100 other factors. But of course, here it's gotten into complete crazy overdrive, whereas at one point, especially with software or with like a fridge, right? You bought it once, you got 5 years support or guarantee or whatever else, and that's it. And now they're expecting you to pay, and it goes so far as to that maybe your fridge won't work or your car won't open. I think they have examples with Teslas because you lost some code or whatever, which makes sense. But also in cases like when simply with the printer here, the example is if you are updating your payment details or canceling your ink subscription, HP will remotely disable your already full and installed ink cartridge, which of course I think is hilarious that they even dare to do that. But I guess, you know, they were sent to the front of the FTSE 500 or S&P 500
dots are?
to see if people will put up with this. The idea that you can identify any printer model,
totally,
maybe even
no, any printed, like not just a model,
or even
like
a serial,
I can see where, you can figure out who printed every piece of paper, essentially.
Which, I mean, what kind of type of regime does this remind you of? I mean, I don't even want to say, but this has been in for decades, and I'm like, it's crazy.
Yeah, people don't even think about it, but you could buy like Oki Data printers don't do this. There's certain printers out there that don't do this, but this is all done so that they can track exactly who printed what. And in the Soviet Union, there was a thing called samizdat, which translates to sort of, well, like illegal, how would you say, like self-publishing?
Self-publishing.
Yeah.
Illegal, right word. Just say illegal.
I mean, if it quacks like a duck, I think came up earlier. This is all sorts of incredible stuff that was hand printed, and it was illegal to have a printer. It was illegal to have a typewriter for a lot of people. You have to register that you owned a typewriter or that you had any sort of Xeroxing.
And so much for people who cannot imagine the control of information or how easily you can reset the knowledge of a civilization if people cannot even typewrite or print stuff themselves.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, so this is this record right here. So people would copy records without vinyl. They used X-rays. So you can still find sometimes like a collectible samizdat records, which are someone's lung printed on Ozzy Osbourne or the Beatles on one side. You know what I mean? Maybe they have the A side of the Beatles on one and the A side of Led Zeppelin or Cream or Kiss or anything else on the other side of the X-ray. But that's, and also we would have cassette tapes that would just get one cassette tape recording next to another cassette tape recording, just playing the speaker at the microphone. So the copy would get worse and worse and worse as it got further and further east. Usually it would start in Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia would be this intermediate that you could sell Western records to the east. But then once they got to the east, it was like they would start to get this fake copy going. And it's cool too, because that's why Siberian music is like so punk. Because by the time the music got there, you know, it's like reggae. Like it's so isolated of an event that it's like the way Japanese people inverted Western
like
culture,
imagine,
you know?
using the worst compression mechanism on your music like 5 times in a row and then
multiplied by the telephone game with kindergartners from other countries. Yeah, pretty much. So the self-publishing in the Soviet Union samizdat, we should somehow bring this back. You know, that's basically, I think we are by making printers subscription services. Just don't get involved with that. And like I said, there are printers that don't use the yellow dot. I'm pretty sure Oki Data still makes printers that don't use the yellow dots. And yeah, just try to get a business printer, a used business printer, and stick with a used business printer. That's like the way to go. Here, we'll go back to him. Hold on. More perfect union. Do we finish with this guy's video here? Subscriptions? Yeah. How about, you want me to see the skyscraper collapse?
Yeah, let's just
watch
watch
what are we
it.
looking at? No sound okay, or do I need sound?
No, I don't need sound.
It's okay, audio free? Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty. So what was so anomalous just now about that? Oh, implosion damage. This was due to hurricanes? Really? Hurricanes.
Well, no.
That's the story?
No. This is a controlled demolition, of course. But they say they had to do it because of hurricanes. I just wanted to show the video, that's all.
Okay, but they're saying because of hurricanes they had to do this.
I'm not sure if that story checks out or not. I was more about the visual.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they would do this if they couldn't make money off a building any other way. Okay. Ben Jordan's cool. I think we've all seen him. He's like into music, isn't that right? Is that his thing?
Yeah, so one of the things I want to say is the more I investigate all these angles, the more it almost seems as if at least some of the worst propaganda accusations that the different political parties or power groups are flinging at each other may in a strange way, usually not the ones that are being purported or true in the way they are being purported, but maybe even some kind of worse thing actually is happening and everyone is doing it, whether it's whatever variant of election shenanigans or here the different sides of how you can propagandize whom, using what kind of technology from where or what kind of algorithm. It's crazy. And I'm curious if they're really going to do something now about the bots. I'm not exactly sure if it's been completely cleaned up by now or how it's going to look like if there ever would be a real accounting of who really is a true individual that's subscribing and who is dependent on bots.
Mm-hmm.
And also the question, of course, with more modern models, as they're pointing out here, how oftentimes are you actually potentially discussing with a large language model only to rally up further and to increase political dissent or whatever else, and you're not even talking with a real individual. And maybe that's where quite a few of at least the online Karens come from. From what I understand, if I ever did, during the lockdown periods, I only tried to get into arguments with individuals I know are real, but that already was tedious enough. So I don't want to imagine wasting the time on an LLM.
Well, I think if it learns from it, it might be better than most humans. Then we've got some videos from the Door brothers, which we saw one at the very beginning, which was pretty cool. And they're putting up these AI.
Yeah, so it seems they're going wild now with the 8-second clips, which you can really tell by the way it is cut. And also this is kind of suspicious to me, like why? And also it shows how incredibly centralized, obviously, AI development is, because so far they still only released the 8-second generator. I'm not sure, maybe with offline models and a really powerful server farm or whatever, you could probably create longer consistent clips. But here it seems they're using some public API.
Well, they've gotten it per token. AI is doing 8 seconds per token, which is pretty good. But like in the future, we can imagine how are you going to make a token divisible, and this is what like Doge or Bitcoin eventually could have to do with is the processing power that goes into something. The other thing is an 8-second clip is pretty good. 8 seconds in 35mm film. I'm trying to do the foot calculation. How many feet? What's time? 8 seconds is 0 minutes. 8 seconds is 12 feet of film. Right? So there's probably something to that. I know that sounds crazy, but there's probably something to that. Like there's probably a reason why that they want to do it at 8 seconds, and it has to do with film. Okay, poorly aged commercials. Those are pretty funny. I like these ones too. I have some of these in the MK Ultra video on Odyssey that I produced. These are pretty. We could watch a couple of these. I think we can get away with that. Hold on, this one's pretty good. Let's go back. And run. Such a good company.
To protect the market against unfavorable weather is what it says. That's even better.
Oh, yeah. Why is the audio not
really.
playing?
Well, 1.5 calories.
These guys talk.
We can hear it.
Freshens your breath just as well as that does.
Oh, yeah? Oh. Well, let's see. I'm almost convinced. No, right.
Oh, it's Mona.
Right. I am convinced.
Tic Tac.
I'm gone. I'm history for now.
The incredible 1.5 calorie breath mint.
Going out this way.
Oh, you okay?
I'm fine, let's go.
Hold on, where are you?
I'm in New York.
Who am I?
Hey, Coach.
And who are you?
I'm Batman.
Sit down.
You don't understand. I'm Batman.
I do.
Not going anywhere for a while? Grab a Snickers.
So just straight up head injury commercials for Snickers.
From him, and it's all over.
Oh, this one's gonna make me cry. No, I won't.
Oh, crikey. It appears we've used a different courier who hasn't arrived yet. It's okay because...
See, like, how based is that, though, that he would make that joke? Because he's like, all right, I don't care. My life is...
I just bought that
based.
caravan.
I understand. Here's someone who helped me when I was really depressed.
Therapist?
No, actually a Ford dealer. Come on, I'll help you with that scene.
The all-new Ford Freestar.
Man, okay, is there one... Here, we'll do the first one. I think it's the one that everyone wants.
Chocolate.
Milk?
Introducing Jell-O Stir and Snack Pudding.
Chocolate.
A whole new way to snack.
Good.
Chocolate.
Don't worry, I'm making you a cup of this new stuff. Stir.
I need a snack. Jell-O pudding. My own cup of rich creaminess.
New Jell-O Stir and Snack. Now you can have pudding 1 cup at a time.
You got any vanilla?
I can do that.
If you can stir, you can snack.
My God, man. Oh, and Dianetics? Okay, pretty good. And then last one, I think we're near like the end here. You want to play Killing an Arrow?
Yeah, this
really?
This is just some songs when we were chatting about different topics and people brought up different songs. The most interesting one will be the last because it's also someone I know, but it's in German, so it's probably can't really understand much.
I do.
But
love
anyways,
Robert
people
Smith.
can check out the links kindly. It's even now in the description, along with all of Xirtus's links. And
Ooh, Susie and the Banshees. That's true. There's a lot of good. Yeah.
The video is hilarious, I have to say.
Dude. All right. Well, that's pretty much. I guess I wanted to do one really quickly thing. Also, say like you guys should check out Emil and the Detectives because there's this crazy German book from Erich Kästner who you'll hear about at some point if you don't already know about him because he's important. But also he made this book called Emil and the Detectives. 1964 film was made out of it by Disney. No one seemed to have seen this movie that I've ever talked to, so you should probably get that done because it's like filmed by Disney in Germany following the adventures of these young boys that are in a gang and keeping the detectives being careful around these criminals, like kind of strange 1930s comic criminals in Germany.
Well, thank you, Andreas, for educating us on European American media.
Thank you for being here. I'll see you guys later. I think we're going to do 8 p.m. a little later today. Hasta luego.